3 o'clock in the morning, the darkest, quietest hour when logic simply dissolves and only pure raw instinct takes over my shivering hands. I've typed out your name into the contacts list 5 separate times now, deleting it just before the final critical push of the call button. I drafted an entire short novel of a message in my notes app, starting with a casual how are you and ending with a desperate plea to just hear your voice, even if it's only to say hello. The screen light is too harsh in this deep darkness, illuminating the foolish hope in my eyes. I just wanna know, the silence I'm swimming in is the same exact ocean of quiet that you're breathing in on your side of the city tonight, or if you've already found a different harbor. This is my midnight ritual, the silent one-sided conversation I have with the ghost of a dial tone. I'm holding on to the beautiful ghost of your promise, the one you made under the soft gentle rain that night, and the fear of hearing your real voice is the only thing keeping me from tearing the whole memory down. It's better to keep you perfect in the smooth, warm roads memory of my mind than to shatter the illusion with an awkward real-time call. I'll just press the power button and let the phone return to the quiet dark, letting the unsaid words echo softly in the spacious, airy harmony of my loneliness. I remember you once told me that the stars were just old, slow memories finally reaching the earth, light years too late to matter. And that's exactly what you are to me now, a beautiful distant light, a warm reminder of something immense that already burned out a long time ago. I saw a couple today, huddled close together against the early evening breeze, and I realized I don't miss the future we planned, I miss the effortless silent understanding between us that needed no words at all. I miss the way we could just be sitting in comfortable silence, the only soundtrack being the gentle rhythmic hum of the refrigerator. I keep ending this midnight ritual, knowing that silence is the final answer, not the ghost of a dial tone. I'm releasing the grip on that beautiful broken promise, because the memory itself has begun to fade, too fragile to hold. I realize now that the illusion has already shattered. It's no longer better to keep you perfect in my mind. The only thing left to do is let the phone stay dark, allowing the unsaid words to settle and find their own lonely, quiet harmony. I'm choosing this emptiness over the desperate need to hear your voice again. There's a medium-sized cardboard box sitting quietly in the back corner of my closet, tucked just behind the winter coats I haven't needed this year. It's loosely taped shut, simply labeled TBD in your messy, unmistakable handwriting, and it holds the entire condensed history of us. Inside I know there are crumpled movie ticket stubs, the small dried out rose from our first date, and that chipped silver key to your old apartment. I walk past it every morning, knowing with absolute certainty that opening it would be a purely devastating and emotionally reckless decision. So I keep my distance, treating it like a fragile, unexploded relic. I just wanna hold the static weight of us a little longer, even if it's just the weight of cardboard and us safely contained in the dark. This box is my sacred anchor, the only thing tethering me to to the undeniable truth that we were once in us. I can't bring myself to throw it out, because doing that would suddenly make this final ending completely brutally real. I'm searching for the hidden melody within the silence, hoping that if I listen closely enough, I can hear the gentle percussion of our shared laughter. Trapped inside the fiberboard walls, I trace the faded letters of the label, running my fingertips over your cursive, just to feel a small connection to the warmth of your hand. I just wanna carry the heavy weight of our history for one more night, tucked away in the shadows of my quiet bedroom. I keep wondering if you have a similar box somewhere hidden away in your own new life, tucked away under your bed, or maybe deep in a storage unit. If you too have outsourced your own painful memories to a sealed container. When we broke up, I cleaned everything out so thoroughly, scrubbing the walls clean of any lingering scent, except for the tiny dusty film of us that still clings to the air around that box. I remember reading once that memory is reconstructive, not reproductive. We rebuild it every time we recall it, and maybe that's why I'm afraid to open the lid. I'm terrified that the real contents won't match the perfect idealized memory I've kept polished in my mind. I'm slowly realizing that this box is a heavy burden, not a sacred anchor preventing me from finally stepping into the quiet light of day. I have to accept that the final ending is real, whether the box is opened or not. The gentle percussion of our laughter is already gone. All that's left is the empty echo. When I move the container, I stop tracing the faded letters now, understanding that a connection can't be found in a cardboard relic. I have to finally let go of the heavy weight of our history, even if it means feeling lighter and emptier all at once. The sun is out today, unapologetically bright and warm, mocking me with the forced cheerfulness of a newly arrived spring. The last stubborn piles of dirty snow finally melted away this morning, rushing down the gutters, taking with them the only remnants of the cold, quiet season we shared. The world outside is busily shedding its heavy layers, bursting into reckless vivid green, and everyone seems to be moving forward with this aggressive, hopeful energy. But I am still here, stuck firmly in the muted nostalgic grayscale of a deep December memory, wearing the heavy weight of a season that's long gone. I hate how the weather can be so easily transformed, while the temperature in my own heart remains perpetually frozen at the moment you walked away from the door. I wish I could trade this loud, obnoxious sunshine for the soft, gentle rain, the chaotic spring renewal for the simple, structured, cold air we quietly share. The light now is too sharp to defining. It shows all the flaws and the empty spaces too clearly. I'm wrapped tightly in the thick, heavy blanket of winter memories, while everyone else is happily shedding their coats and inviting in the blinding light. My breath is still foggy with the words we left unsaid, refusing to thaw out and disappear into the easy warmth of a new beginning. I'm singing a hymn for the departed frost, yearning for the cozy solitude we found when the was sleeping. I passed by the corner stand where they're selling flowers, bright yellow tulips and pink hyacinths. But all I could see was the memory of the bare intricate branches of the old oak tree outside your window, stark and beautiful against the pale sky. It's hard to breathe and everything around me feels like a vibrant light, an attempt to cover up the subtle, beautiful decay that I'm still clinging to so tightly. I remember the morning we woke up to the sound of ice cracking on the pavement, and you held me closer, whispering that we were safe inside our own tiny, fragile world. I wish I could step back into that insulated bubble of cold air and quiet certainty before the seasons changed and the truth started to bloom in ways I couldn't ignore anymore. I have to let the sunshine break through, letting go of the wish for the gentle rain. Even though the spring renewal feels like a lie, I can't accept the light is still too sharp. But I'm learning to look away from the flaws and the empty spaces. I'm carefully taking off the heavy blanket of winter memories, though the air underneath is still cold and uncomfortable. I realize the fog won't lift until I stop yearning for the safe, cozy solitude we found in the quiet darkness. I'm choosing to stand here feeling the harsh new warmth, even if it hasn't reached my heart yet. I accidentally shuffled my music library this evening in your curated playlist, the one we built over those quiet summer nights. Suddenly started playing through the speakers. The first track was that soft, intricate electric guitar piece you introduced me to, and the sound instantly pulled me back into that moment on the porch swing. It's been months, but I haven't had the strength to delete it from my cloud. It feels like erasing a piece of my own musical DNA, a chapter of my auditory biography. Every single song on that list is a carefully labeled memory. Track 7, the drive home after the beat. Track 12, our first slow dance in the kitchen. The playlist is perfectly ordered, but the rest of my life since you left has been nothing but pure, unsettling static. This playlist is the final, undisputed testament to the beautiful harmony we used to be. It's the perfect loop of the moment before the silence hit, a delicate R&B groove that perfectly captures the easy, natural rhythm of our breath next to each other. I keep waiting for the track to jump, for the digital stream to fill, hoping the sudden silence will somehow match the silence that fills my room now. But the warm roach piano keeps gliding softly into the next verse, mocking me with its effortless, beautiful continuity. I'm a broken melody that can't find its key, living inside the airy harmonies of a song that already reached its final, heartbreaking outro. I sometimes wonder if you ever listen to it now, or if you had the clarity, the ruthless efficiency to just press the delete button the second you decided to walk away. Did you wipe the slate clean? Or is that specific gentle beat drop still echoing in your own private moments? The soft electric guitar finger picking on track 4 used to be your favorite, the one you play on repeat when you were feeling skip it every single time now, not because it hurts, but because I'm afraid that if I let it play, I'll somehow call your memory into the room, and I won't have the strength to send it away again. It's a fear of accidental, unintended contact with the life I'm desperately trying to move past. I realize this playlist is a final, beautiful illusion, not a testament of the harmony we once held. It's a toxic loop of moments that only exist in the past, a rhythm that no longer matches the broken beat of my own heart. I stopped waiting for the stream to fail, because the failure was ours, not the music's. The warm roads piano is playing too loud. Now I have to interrupt its continuity to find a new quiet key. I might be a broken melody now, but I have to start singing my own dissonant song, finally moving past the easy harmonies of our finished story. I was humming the melody of a song I couldn't quite place this morning, while waiting for my coffee, and then I realized it was the forgotten almost silence of the interlude in the middle of our favorite album. That small tender gap of just strings and soft percussion. It was always the sound of us simply breathing next to each other in the car parked by the ocean after a long quiet drive. I miss the moments that weren't the chorus or the bridge, the parts that weren't dramatic or meant to be memorized. Just the effortless, minimalist rhythm of two lives existing peacefully in the same air. Now every song I listen to feels truncated, rushed, as if the entire world is skipping over the best part, the quiet part where you used to reach for my hand without saying a single word. Tell me, where does a shared silence go when the voices finally stop singing, when the music fades out? My world is now stuck in that missing interlude, a perfect empty pause that refuses to play the final notes. I'm searching for the gentle rhythm of your hand in mine, trying to reconstruct the beautiful, easy feeling of being completely and utterly safe within the soft static. Everything else has moved on, hitting the final crescendo, but I am still here, trapped in the memory of the road's piano's last warm chord. I just wanna find the simple, quiet note that will finally give me the courage to move this whole sad album forward. I drove by the old cinema today, the one with the cracked neon sign that used to flicker exactly like the light in our eyes whenever we talked about the uncertain, ambitious future we were so sure we built together. We had a silly ritual of always whispering our dreams into the quiet dark of the theater before the movie started, hoping the velvet chairs and the dark air would act as secret keepers. I remember every ridiculous, impossible idea we shared, but I can't quite recall the exact sound of your voice when you told me you were leaving. It's strange how the most significant part of our story is the only thing my mind has conveniently edited out, leaving only the beautiful, irrelevant fragments of our past whispers behind. I finally realized that a shared silence never truly disappears. It just splits into two separate, lonely yet completely disappeared. I'm ready to find the strong, decisive note that will finally give me the courage to erase this whole sad album entirely. I found a stack of old Polaroids tucked under a cushion, the ones we took on that incredibly cold beach trip, where the ocean was steel gray and the wind was relentless. Every single one of them is slightly unfocused, blurred by the frantic rush of our laughter, or the clumsy excitement of our cold fingers trying to hold a tiny camera steady. But the blurriness never mattered then. It simply captured the energy, the rush of being so entirely happy that nothing else needed to be sharp or defined. Now I stare at the faded images, trying to find a single distinct edge, a clear line where I can point and say that was the moment it all started to end. But it's all just beautiful, unfocused chaos. This blurry photograph is the only proof I have that we were ever real. A faded image where the edges of us are completely indistinguishable. I can still taste the cold salt air in the back of my throat, but the memory of your face is becoming hazy, just like the unfocused Polaroid. I'm holding on to the rush of that careless, joyful moment, trying desperately to find the single hidden point of focus that will explain why we lost our way. My heart is a delicate camera lens, perpetually out of alignment, refusing to capture the painful, sharp clarity of the lonely present. I remember you telling me once that the key to a good photograph is to always know exactly what you're trying to capture, to commit to that single objective feeling. And I realize now that's where we went wrong. We never quite defined what we were, too afraid to label the beautiful fleeting thing we had. We were comfortable in the soft ambient glow of ambiguity. The light in these pictures is fading now, taking with it the last remnants of the colors we were. I know I should just throw them away, but I'm terrified that if I destroy the unfocused memory, I'll be left with nothing but a clear, harsh view of the life I have now. A life where everything is sharp, cold, and entirely alone. This blurry photograph still feels so real, but I have to accept it's a faded image of a past I can't recover. The memory of your face is finally sharpening, but only because I'm starting to see you for who you are now. A figure standing far away, I'm no longer holding on to the rush of that careless moment, realizing that the lack of focus was a warning sign all along. My heart is finally beginning to realign, a camera lens choosing to capture the painful, sharp clarity of the lonely present. I know the blur was more beautiful, but this clear, cold reality is the only truth left to me. Haven't been making my bed since you left, letting the sheets lie in the exact tangled position they were in when we woke up together that last morning. It's a quiet, private protest, against the order of a life without you. A refusal to smooth out the creases of our shared history. Your side of the duvet is still slightly warmer, or maybe that's just my mind playing tricks on me in the early light, desperate to find any lingering trace of your heat. I trace the outline of your absent head on the pillow, and the memory of your morning whisper is so strong. It feels like an actual physical presence, a gentle it pulls the sound laid over the room's cold silence. It's the only place in the apartment that doesn't feel entirely mine yet. The last sanctuary where we still exist in the disorder. The sun-made bed is the final tender monument to the beautiful mess we were. A safe harbor of wrinkles and tangled threads. I find a strange quiet comfort in the chaos of the duvet. A refusal to start the day until the memory fully fades. I keep waiting for the sound of your laugh to unravel from the sheets, hoping to hear the gentle beats of your heart again as you turn over. I'm breathing in the last molecules of your scent, holding on to the illusion that you'll walk through the door and climb back under the covers. My mind is a broken clock and I'm choosing to keep the hand stopped exactly at the moment you decided to quietly leave this room. I used to love the ritual of making the bed together, smoothing out the wrinkles, creating a clean slate for the evening. You always insisted on tucking the corners in perfectly, a small endearing need for order that always made me laugh. I realize now that our relationship was like this bed. I loved a soft, comforting mess, and you craved the neat, impossible structure. Maybe that's why we couldn't stay tucked in together. I've started sleeping on your side now, a foolish, selfish attempt to steal the last remaining warmth, but the pillow feels too cold, too flat, and the air around me is too thin. I know I have to make the bed eventually, but I'm terrified that once I smooth the sheets, the last piece of us will disappear forever. I know this unmade bed is just a lonely protest, a pathetic monument to a beautiful mess that will never be fixed. I have to find the quiet comfort, not in the chaos, but in the final act of clearing away the threads of our past. I stopped waiting for the sound of your laugh, realizing the gentle beats I hear now are just my own heart learning its own solo rhythm. I'm letting go of the illusion that you'll return, choosing to breathe in the fresh clean air of the morning instead. My mind is finally ticking again, and the only way to move forward is to make the bed and finally face the empty, perfectly ordered room. I went through my whole phone gallery, scrolling back through the endless digital archives until I hit the earliest photos, the ones we took with that cheap tiny analog app. Every picture has that dreamy warm filter, the color slightly oversaturated, the edges softened by a gentle vignette. You always said it made the mundane look like a masterpiece, and looking back I realized that's exactly what we did to our life. We used that filter on every tiny flaw, every small argument, blurring the reality until the whole picture looked like a perfect, cozy winter postcard. It wasn't the truth, but it was so beautiful and comforting, and I would trade the stark high definition clarity of the present moment for that soft, beautiful lie in a second. I'm perpetually stuck inside this soft analog filter, trapped in the beautiful, deliberate lie that made everything look like a masterpiece. A warm, hazy glow made our flaws invisible, wrapping our fragile story in a perfect, comforting layer of gentle nostalgia. I'm desperate to find the small, hidden button that will apply that filter to the present moment, to blur the sharp, painful edges of this lonely room. I'm listening to the song of our memory played through a vinyl hit, cherishing the beautiful sound that was was always just a little bit too sweet, a little too perfect to be truly real. I try to take a new picture today, a clear, sharp, digital one of the few outside my window, and the raw clarity of the image was shocking. The sky was just gray, the shadows were harsh, and the colors were dull. There was no filter to save the simple, cold reality of it all. I deleted the photo immediately, choosing to live only in the gallery, where the light is always soft and the colors always vibrant. I remember the last argument we had, the moment the analog filter finally cracked and the brutal, raw truth flooded in. I wish I could forget that clarity, go back to the time when your smile was blurry and bright, when our love was a beautifully imperfect lie, captured only for our eyes. I'm starting to see that I can't stay stuck in this analog filter, no matter how beautiful the deliberate lie was. The warm hazy glow is fading, and I'm realizing that the true masterpiece is not hiding the flaws, but facing them in the harsh real light. I'm finally finding the hidden button that will switch off the filter entirely, allowing the sharp, painful edges of this lonely room to be seen. I'm learning to listen to the song of my memory without the final hiss, accepting that the truest sound is the raw, quiet voice that's finally starting to sing a new, honest melody. Oh, buddy, it's that fleeting, golden time of the evening again, the hour before the sun finally dips below the horizon, painting everything in a soft, warm amber. I used to call you light. We would always stop whatever we were doing, simply sitting on the floor to watch the way the shadows stretched and danced across the walls. A silent, intimate ritual we never needed to schedule. That was the purest, most uncomplicated part of our day. A beautiful, finite moment that was guaranteed to end, but was perfect while it lasted. Now I face this beautiful light alone, and it feels like a cruel reminder of how quickly and inevitably the perfect, warm parts of life eventually fade into the long, cold night. The warmth only hits my skin for a moment, and then it's gone, leaving me alone with the growing shadows. I'm chasing after the last hour of daylight, desperate to trap the fading amber light. And inside this room, before it completely disappears, the warmth on my skin is the final, undeniable trace of your presence. And I'm holding my breath, open to stop the sunset, to deny the arrival of the cold, dark night. My heart is a fragile hourglass, and I'm watching the golden grains of our time together run out, knowing that once this cozy, nostalgic mood is gone, I'll be left with nothing but the memory of the light. I just wanna pause this fading moment, because the true darkness is not the night, but the quiet silence you left behind. I remember you once said that the twilight was your favorite time, because it was the only moment that wasn't trying to be anything. Not bright day, not deep night, just a gentle, transition. And I realize now that's where we existed too, and that that beautifully ambiguous light, afraid to commit to the clarity of a real morning or the finality of a real night. The shadows are long and distorted now, stretching themselves into shapes I don't recognize, and they feel menacing, unlike the playful shapes we used to see. I finally understand at the end of the day it's not a tragedy, it's a necessary process, and I have to learn to embrace the long, quiet darkness as a time for rest, not for desperate, futile pursuit of the warmth that is already gone. I'm finally letting go of the chase for the last hour of daylight, choosing to accept the quiet fading of the amber light and the inevitable necessary dark. The warmth on my skin is now just a memory, and I'm learning to breathe through the passing of the sunset, no longer trying to stop the flow of time. My heart is slowly filling up with the realization that this quiet darkness is not a punishment, but a chance for a much needed rest. I'm choosing to let go of the cozy, nostalgic mood and welcome the cold, honest night, because the true peace is found not in the light, but in accepting the silence you left behind. I was cleaning out the digital files today, deleting old voicemails and video clips I didn't recognize. And I came across that short, muffled recording you accidentally left after a late night call. It's mostly just the sound of your easy, uneven breathing and the quiet scrape of your chair against the floor. Not a single clear word, but I realized that I've been playing it back for weeks, trying to imprint the specific, subtle frequency of your voice into my memory, because I've started to forget the exact way you used to pronounce my name. It's not the grand promises I miss, it's the quiet incidental music of your presence, the one sound I can't find replicated anywhere else in the world. And I'm terrified that even this recording will eventually turn to static. Tell me, how can a memory so vivid lose its tone, dissolving slowly like sugar in a cup of cooling tea? I'm stuck trying to tune my mind to the ghost frequency, desperately searching for the sound of your specific laugh in the middle of a crowded street. The air is thick with all the words we never said, but I'm only listening for the quiet music of the words we once knew. The simple evening sound of your breathing is the final undeniable proof that our harmony was ever real. I'm just trying to hold on to the smallest, most perfect decor before the quiet static consumes it all entirely. I called my own number today just to hear my voicemail greeting. I needed to hear a familiar voice, any familiar voice that wasn't filtered through the lens of memory. It's unsettling how quickly my mind has started to fill in the gaps with approximations and substitutes, turning your real voice into a smooth, idealized version that never actually existed. I know I have to stop playing that recording. I know that listening to the past only makes the present silence sound louder and sharper. But if I delete it, I feel like I'll be committing the final unforgivable act of turning the entire existence of us into a blank tape, erasing the last crust, let evidence that we completely synchronized. Finally see that a memory doesn't lose its tone. It simply shifts into a different frequency that I can't yet understand. I have to stop. Desperate search for your sound in the noise of the world. The air is still thick with unspoken words, but I'm learning to listen to the new quiet music of my own solitude. The absence of your sound is now the final undeniable proof that our harmony is over. I'm closing the loop on the smallest, most perfect echo, ready to let the quiet static settle and finally rest. I still have the spare key to your old apartment, the small tarnished silver one you gave me when you swore we would never need two separate places again. It hangs on the back of my kitchen door, a small cold piece of useless metal, perfectly positioned next to my keys for the life I live now. My car, my office, my new home. Every morning I instinctively reach for it, my fingers tracing the jagged cuts, and I remember the effortless relief of opening your door, knowing I was already home. It's an anchor to a harbor that's long gone, a physical symbol of the easy, uncomplicated access I once had to your heart and your life. It serves no purpose now, except to remind me of the specific, tangible distance between us. This missing key is the perfect metaphor for the access I no longer possess, a silent, cruel reminder of a door that is permanently shut. I can feel the weight of this small piece of silver in my palm, heavy with the burden of all the unspoken promises we left inside the room. I know the lock has been changed, the address forgotten, but my heart is stuck trying to find a specific turn and angle that would still let me inside your thoughts. I'm trapped outside, listen to the muffled, warm sounds of a life that is still going on, unable to step back into the comfort of your light. I should really throw it out, drop it into the public donation bin, or maybe just bury it in the backyard. But I'm afraid that if I dispose of this key, I'll be admitting that my access was truly, finally revoked. I remember the day you handed it to me. It wasn't a dramatic gesture, just a quiet, casual passing of trust that felt more significant than any spoken vow. I wonder if you ever think about it, about the fact that this tangible fragment of your past is still hanging on my wall. I imagine myself walking to your new building, finding the door and realizing that even if the lock hadn't been changed, I wouldn't have the courage to turn the key and face the stranger you've become. I'm slowly laying down this missing key, accepting that it's simply a cold piece of metal, not a metaphor for the access I can earn back. I'm releasing the weight of the small piece of silver, finally understanding that the true burden was the promise I was trying to hold on. Or I know the lock is permanent now, and my heart has stopped trying to find the specific turn that would let me back inside your memories. I'm finally turning away from the closed door, no longer listening to the muffled sounds, realizing that the only home I need to unlock is the one I've been hiding from inside myself. There's a tiny faded coffee stain on the white surface of my favorite kitchen table, right near the corner where I always sit. It happened months ago. You were laughing too hard at a ridiculous joke I made, and your hand slipped, leaving behind this permanent warm brown ring on the otherwise pristine surface. We scrubbed at it for hours, swearing we'd get it out, but it just faded to the stubborn soft shade. It used to annoy me, that permanent perfection, but now I realize it's the only physical proof I have that our shared laughter was ever powerful enough to leave a mark on the world. It's a beautifully flawed relic, a reminder that even the cleanest moments in life have a subtle lasting stain of something real and unerasable attached to them. This small stubborn coffee stain is the final minimalist masterpiece of our messy, beautiful history, a perfect testament to the simple fact that we existed. I try to cover it with a book or a coaster, but I always find myself tracing the circumference with my finger, remembering the sound of your specific laugh. This permanent imperfection is the most honest truth I own, a tiny dark reminder that some flaws can't be easily washed away, but must be simply accepted. I realize now that I don't want the table to be perfectly clean. I need this faint, warm brown mark to prove that your hand was once close enough to mine to spill over. Tablecloth yesterday, a simple linen one, hoping to completely obscure the stain and finally move on from this daily visible memory. But as I drape the fabric over the table, I realize that the stain still exists underneath. This presence only concealed, not truly gone. I wonder if that's what I'm doing to the memory of you, covering the pain with new routines and new people, but knowing that the beautiful, unerasable mark of us is still quietly bleeding through the layers. I lifted the cloth immediately. I don't wanna live with the hidden truth. I choose the visible, flawed memory over the flawless, empty surface that only pretends to be clean. This stubborn coffee stain is no longer a masterpiece. It's a necessary one that I have to keep visible to avoid forgetting the truth of the pain. I stopped trying to cover it with anything, realizing that tracing the circumference is the only way to genuinely remember. This permanent imperfection is the hardest truth I own, a tiny dark reminder that covering a flaw doesn't make it disappear, it just makes the lie quieter. I realize now that the table will never be perfectly clean, and I need this faint, warm brown mark to teach me how to live with the visible evidence of the things that can never be undone. I was driving home tonight, completely on autopilot, and realized I'd accidentally taken the highway exit that used to lead directly to your old neighborhood, the one I haven't used in months. It was a familiar, immediate physical reaction, a muscle memory of a future I no longer have access to. I stayed on the ramp for a moment, letting the headlights illuminate the specific street sign, and I wondered if that's exactly where we went wrong. We didn't crash or stop, we just missed a crucial shared exit months ago, and I didn't realize until the highway split us onto two completely different, separate journeys. a gentle sad melody, and I'm searching the rearview mirror for your headlights. Even though I know you took the off-ramp long before I did, I can feel the distance between us expanding with every mile marker. And I don't know the map to your new destination, or even how to navigate back to my starting point. I just need to find the courage to pull over and finally accept that this is no longer a journey we are meant to take together. I finally forced myself to take a different exit tonight, a completely new one that leads into a part of the city I've never explored, and the unfamiliarity was terrifying. Every street sign was a stranger, every building an enigma, and I realized how much I depended on the comfort of our shared predictable routes. I remember arguing over directions that one time, pulling over to look at the paper map, and you pointing out that we could choose any road we wanted as long as we were going the same way. Now I have all the freedom in the world to choose, but the silence in the passenger seat is deafening, making every new turn feel arbitrary and completely pointless. I'm slowly driving away from that endless highway, finally breaking the loop that brought me back to the wrong exit, the place where I thought my life was supposed to end. The radio plays a new dissonant, gentle melody, and I'm no longer searching the rearview mirror for your light, choosing instead to focus on the road ahead. I'm starting to accept that the distance between us is permanent, and the only map I need is the courage to keep moving. I'm pulling into this new strange town, finally accepting that this is a lonely journey I must take, but at least I am finally moving forward, away from the past. The book is still sitting on the nightstand, exactly half read, marked with the heavy navy bookmark you left there the night you moved out. It's a complicated, sweeping novel we decided to read aloud to each other, taking turns reading chapters before bed. The narrative stops right at the climax, a pivotal unresolved moment where the main characters have reached their final impossible choice. I refuse to pick it up again, afraid that if I continue the story alone, the ending will feel entirely wrong, stripped of the shared commentary and the quiet arguments we used to have over character motivation. It's the perfect symbol of us, a beautiful unfinished story, forever paused right before the final undeniable resolution that we never got to write together. This half-read book is the tangible proof of our unfinished story, a beautifully bound narrative frozen forever at the peak of its emotional climax. I traced the navy bookmark with a trembling hand, terrified to turn the page and face the ending that you won't be here to witness. I'm still listening for the sound of your voice, reading the complex, delicate prose, trying to hold on to the gentle rhythm of us existing side by side. I know the words are waiting on the page, but I'm choosing to live in the comforting pause, in the ambiguous moment right before the fate of the characters, and our fate was finally sealed. I saw a stranger reading the same book on the subway today, and I wanted and ask them how it ended. To outsource just the pain of the ending to someone else. I wondered if they hated the final chapters, or if they were satisfied with the brutal clarity of the author's resolution. I realized now that I could finish the novel in a single afternoon, finally gaining the closure I crave. But the truth is that I want the book to stay half-read. I want the possibility of a story to remain open, unresolved, living eternally in that moment of tension and high hope. If I finish the book, it means our story is ended too, and I'm not ready to close the back cover on the memory of us. I'm finally choosing to close the cover on this half-read book, realizing that leaving the narrative paused is a greater act of pain than reading the final words. I'm turning the page now, accepting the brutal final resolution that you won't be here to witness. I've stopped listening for the sound of your voice in the prose, learning to read the complex, delicate words through my own quiet, changed perspective. I know the ending is harsh, but I'm choosing the final clarity over the comforting, ambiguous pause. I must finish the story alone, even if the last chapter only contains a singular, lonely echo of my own voice. I've started wearing your thick, heavy charcoal scarf again, the one you always claimed was too big for you. So we often ended up wrapping it around both our necks on those unexpectedly cold nights. It's ridiculously long, smelling faintly of old wool and a hint of the sandalwood cologne you stopped wearing 2 years ago. The wool is scratchy against my skin, but the sheer size of the fabric provides an immense, overwhelming feeling of security, a physical anchor to the last feeling of being truly taken care of. It's a cruel kind of comfort, this warmth, because I know the heat radiating from the fibers is my own body heat, not the residual warmth of your skin. Yet I wear it anyway, clinging to the comforting lie that I'm not entirely alone in this cold apartment. This shared charcoal scarf is the heaviest, softest anchor I own, a tangible, suffocating tether to a warmth that no longer exists. I bury my face in the wool, searching desperately for the fading scent of your presence, clinging to the fragile lie that your arms are still wrapped tightly around my neck. The fabric is rough, but the pain is a necessary reminder of the comfort that came with your touch. I know that the heat is just my own body heat, but I'm choosing the delusion over the cold clarity of the empty air. I'll wear this scarf until the spring, letting the memory of your touch be the only thing that keeps me safe from the winter outside. I noticed today that the scarf is starting to pill, small, ugly knots of broken wool forming where the fabric rubs against itself the most. It's an honest sign of decay, a physical manifestation of the wear and tear our relationship endured. I started to pick at one of the knots, thinking I could repair the damage, but the harder I pulled, the more fragile the surrounding threads became. I stopped immediately, realizing that some damage is impossible to fix, and the best thing to do is simply leave the broken part alone. I realize I have to stop wearing it soon. It's time to accept that the only warmth I should be generating is my own, not something borrowed from a ghost of soft gray wool. I'm slowly folding up this shared charcoal scarf, accepting that the heaviest anchor I own is actually eventually dragging me down into the past. I'm letting the fading scent go now, choosing to break the fragile lie that your warmth can never be replicated. The fabric is rough, and the pain is no longer a necessary reminder. It's a wound that needs to breathe. I realize that the heat is all my own, and I'm finally choosing the cold clarity of the empty air over deception. I'll store the scarf away before spring arrives, letting my own strength be the only thing that keeps me safe from the lonely winter inside. I was listening to an old vinyl record, one of those simple, obscure jazz pieces with just a bass and a slow piano, and I was instantly transported back to the small, empty kitchen on a Tuesday night. We didn't need a party or a reason, we just held each other close and swayed to the effortless, quiet rhythm of the music. A slow, simple dance that felt more intimate than any hurried conversation. Your hands were always heavy on my waist, a reassuring weight in my head fit perfectly against the soft pocket of your shoulder. That simple, unscheduled dance was the purest form of our communication, a conversation conducted entirely through the subtle shift of weight and the shared movement of our feet. I miss the silent permission that came with that closeness, the total surrender to a shared gentle beat. I'm still standing here on the polished hardwood floor, desperately waiting for the music to start again, caught in the slow, quiet rhythm of a dance that ended too soon. I close my eyes and try to feel the ghost of your hand heavy on my waist, aching for the simple, perfect feeling of being effortlessly in sync. This empty kitchen is my lonely ballroom, and the music is just a distant, fading memory of the bass line. I know I have to find the courage to move my feet, but the idea of dancing alone to a different, less simple beat is the most terrifying thing I can imagine. I forced myself to put on a faster, louder song today, something with an aggressive drive and tempo that demands movement. I wanted to shake off the quiet memory of that slow rhythm, to replace the gentle swaying with the chaotic, unthinking energy. But every quick step felt wrong, unnatural, and I realized that my body simply wasn't built for that kind of hurried, sharp movement anymore. My muscle memory is permanently tuned to your pace, to the slow, careful way you used to lead me around the room, always anticipating my steps. I finally turned off the music and just stood in the silence, realizing that the absence of the dance is more honest than the clumsy imitation of a rhythm I don't truly own. I'm finally moving away from the polished hardwood floor, accepting that the slow, quiet rhythm of our dance is completely over, replaced by the silence of the room. I've stopped waiting for the ghost of your hand, realizing that the simplest form of courage is learning to stand completely still. This empty kitchen is just a room again, and the music I hear now is not a fading memory, but the steady, honest percussion of my own heart finding its key. I know I have to move my feet eventually, but the true strength is found in standing here, unmoving and ready to begin my own solo dance. The There's a perpetually unfinished text message thread on my phone, sitting right at the top of my chat history, a glowing monument to the conversation we never got to finish. I constantly go into the thread, typing out short, concise updates. I bought a new lamp, I saw that movie you wanted to see, but I never pressed send. It's become my private letter to you, a daily confession box where I externalize the thoughts I can no longer share. A one-sided conversation that never requires a painful response. It's the easiest place to pretend that we are still connected, that a simple notification sound could still bridge the vast silent distance between our separate lives. The cursor blinks relentlessly, waiting for me to commit to the truth, but I always choose the gentle ambiguity of the unsent draft. This unsent text is the only way I know how to talk to you, a silent conversation playing out on a screen that you will never read. I'm perpetually stuck in this gentle ambiguity, afraid that a single honest word will shatter the perfect illusion of our continuous connection. I hit the backspace button more often than the space bar, editing the reality until the message is polite and neutral, removing any trace of the desperation that lingers beneath the surface. I'm watching the cursor blink, knowing that sending the text means accepting the inevitable silence of your permanent reply. I saw a mutual friend today and they asked casually about you, forcing me to construct a coherent, simple narrative of our breakup for the first time. The words felt strange and foreign on my tongue, too simple to capture the dense complexity of our fading. And I realized that the honest, complicated version of the truth is only saved in that unsent text message, locked away in the safety of my own digital draft. I closed the app immediately, choosing to protect that internal conversation from the brutal simplification of the outside world. I wonder if you ever feel the need to write an unsent text back to me, a mirror conversation happening simultaneously on your own private screen. But I know better than to hope for synchronicity now. I'm slowly deleting this unsent text, finally realizing that the silent conversation is just a cruel trick I play on my own memory. I'm choosing to shatter the gentle ambiguity, accepting that the most honest thing I can do is finally delete the illusion of our continuous connection. I'm forcing my fingers off the screen, no longer editing the reality, but accepting the brutal simplicity of the truth. I'm watching the cursor disappear, knowing that the permanent silence of the empty chat log is the only real final reply I will ever receive from you. I still sit in the exact same spot by the large living room window every evening, watching the street lights bloom and the city transition from golden dusk to velvet night. It used to be our shared ritual. We would sit here sharing a single cup of tea, commenting quietly on the slow stream of people walking below, creating fictional backstories for every couple encounter. The view hasn't changed, the corner street lamp still flickers, the bakery across the road still leaves a sign lit, but the entire scene feels altered, muted like a photograph taken through a layer of cold, damp glass. I keep scanning the faces of the people passing by, half expecting to see a silhouette walking back to the door. A cruel, immediate reflex I can't seem to unlearn. I'm a silent observer of this unmoving scene, a prisoner of this familiar window view, watching the world move in rhythm while I remain perfectly still. I keep seeing your blurred silhouette in the headlights of every passing car, a fleeting shadow that my mind desperately tries to solidify into reality. The glass is cold against my forehead, mirroring the temperature of the air between us now, but I can't look away from this nightly ritual. I'm tracing the condensation on the paint, trying to draw a map back to the moment where the outside world stopped being a quiet shared story. I realized tonight that the window doesn't actually reflect the truth of the world, it reflects the truth of the viewer. When you were here, the glass was just a transparent frame for our shared fantasies. Now it's a mirror that only shows me my own pale, lonely face superimposed over the scene. I remember you hated it when the sun hit the glass at a specific angle, creating a blinding glare, and now I understand why. It was a moment of unwelcome clarity, a pause in the soft ambient lighting of our constructed world. I watched the last street lamp flicker out, and I knew I had to turn away before the cold hard glass revealed any more uncomfortable truths about the life I'm leading now. I'm finally letting go of the need to be a silently observer of the outside scene, turning away from this familiar window view and facing the empty room. I'm no longer chasing your blurred silhouette, accepting that the fleeting shadow was a projection of my own loneliness, not a ghost of your presence. The glass is still cold, but I'm choosing to embrace the chill, realizing that the only map I need to trace is the interior of my own heart. I'm accepting that the outside world is no longer a quiet story, and the only truth left is the harsh, honest clarity of the light inside this room. The old grandfather clock in the hallway still ticks loudly, the rhythmic sound, a constant, gentle percussion that used to be the soundtrack to our mornings. They say that time heals all things, that the steady passage of the seconds will eventually smooth out the sharp edges of the pain. But the clock is a lie, it keeps ticking forward, minute by minute, hour by hour, while I remain perfectly frozen in the moment you walked out the door. The sound is no longer comforting, it's a silent betrayer, moving at a pace that is completely detached from the slow, agonizing crawl of my emotional recovery. Every second that passes only adds weight to the past, pulling me further away from a present that feels entirely impossible to grasp. The hands of the old clock keep spinning, but the timeline in my own mind remains completely static, stuck exactly at the moment of our goodbye. They tell me that I have to give it time, but every passing minute only makes the memory sharper, not softer. I'm trapped in this eternal present, listening to the gentle living tick that mocks my lack of progress, a constant reminder of the life that is continuing without me. I'm searching for the hidden lever, the secret mechanism that would stop the hands completely, because I know that healing doesn't happen by the clock, but by the will I no longer possess. I finally took the battery out of the clock this morning. The sudden absolute silence in the hallway was jarring, almost aggressive in its honesty. For the first time in months, the air didn't feel governed by an arbitrary measured system. The absence of the ticking was a profound relief, allowing me to finally acknowledge that my healing is a non-linear process. Unbound by the neat, predictable cycle of seconds and minutes, I realized that the pain doesn't fade with time. It fades with effort, with the conscious choice to finally step outside the controlled rhythm that society imposes. The stillness is frightening, but it's a far more honest truth than the lie of the perpetually moving hand. The hands of the old clock are finally still, and I realize the timeline in my mind must start moving on its own terms. I'm bound by any external measure. I'm no longer giving it time, but giving it intention, knowing that healing is an act of will, not a passive consequence of waiting. I'm embracing the profound stillness now, realizing that the true rhythm I need to listen to is the uneven, gentle tick of my own recovery. I found the hidden lever. It was my own hand taking the battery out, and I know that the final act of healing won't be marked by the clock, but by the moment I finally choose to start moving my own feet forward. We were sitting in the living room today, side by side, watching a completely thin documentary. And the absence of conversation was the most comfortable sound I've ever known. It made me realize that our entire friendship is built on this quiet understanding, a complex unspoken language where a simple shift in breathing or the weight of a shoulder against mine communicates everything necessary. There's a profound security in knowing that you don't have to fill the air with noise to prove you are present. I remember friends who required endless chatter, but with you the silence is full, laid with 20 years of shared history and memories too delicate to be put into clumsy words. This unspoken language is the purest testament to our bond, a delicate melody played entirely on the notes of quiet comprehension. I'm utterly comfortable in this effortless, gentle silence, knowing that every single thought I have is already fully heard and understood before it even leaves my mind. We built a cathedral of trust in the spaces between our words, a sanctuary where nothing ever has to be explained or justified. I'm scared that if we ever tried to define this comfort, to label it or speak it aloud, the fragile, beautiful equilibrium would immediately break apart. I tried to explain our didn't to a new acquaintance recently, trying to articulate the depth of our connection, but the words felt clumsy and insufficient, falling flat in the cold air. They asked, but what do you talk about? And I realized the answer is everything and nothing at all. I worry now as we get older and life pulls us on to separate paths, that the silence might grow cold, that the space between us could become a vacuum instead of a shared air. I hope we never have to use words again to bridge a gap, that the muscle memory of our shared rhythm will be strong enough to always pull us back into this perfect, quiet synchronization. I finally realized this unspoken language is not fragile. It is the most resilient part of our bond, an enduring melody that transcends physical space. I'm letting go of the fear that this effortless, gentle silence could ever grow cold, knowing that the understanding is now greatest honor is choosing to keep our deepest connection perfectly unspoken. We were at the beach last summer, and I noticed a faint pale crescent scar just above your left elbow. And I instantly remembered the ridiculous, messy bike accident we had when we were 12. It wasn't a dramatic event, just a simple mistake we laughed about later. But the scar is still there, a soft physical reminder of a moment we navigated together. I realized then that my own body carries these small chronological maps of our shared history. The old bruise on my knee from climbing that forbidden wall, the small burn mark from the disastrous cooking attempt. These scars aren't just personal injuries, they are tangible, indelible proof of the mistakes we survived, the ridiculous choices we made, and the entire chaotic history we built side by side. These shared scars are the only true history we own, a permanent physical record of the chaos we survived and the gentle process of healing. I look at the old marks and I remember the exact weight of your hand holding mine on the way to the pharmacy. The wistful comfort of knowing I didn't have to break alone. The pain is long gone, but the soft pale lines remain, a minimalist map charting the complicated geography of our resilience. I cherish the knowledge that the toughest, most defining parts of my life are permanently etched onto your story as well. I went through a truly difficult internal crisis last year, one I didn't tell you about until it was safely over. And I noticed that even without the physical mark, my emotional landscape was left with a new, quiet scar. When I finally confessed it to you, you simply nodded and shared your own similar secret burden. That's the true definition of our friendship, the ability to silently recognize the echo of a new wound in the other person, even without a visible sign. I realized that the scars we carry now are less visible, less dramatic than the bike accident, but they are deeper, defining the core of the people we've become, together and apart. I finally see that these shared scars are not just a record of the past chaos, they are a blueprint for the future, proving the depth of our survival and our capacity to grow. I accept that the old marks still carry the ache of the memory, but they now offer the wistful comfort of knowing that the greatest wounds in life are the ones we faced and sealed. I realize now that the pain is the necessary glue, the catalyst that binds our individual stories into one breakable narrative. I cherish the knowledge that the toughest, most defining parts of my life are permanently etched onto your heart, not just your skin. I found that old creased piece of notebook paper today, the one we drew that absurd detail map on when we were 16, the map of our future. It had a star marking the shared house by the sea, an arrow pointing to the famous studio where we'd record our album, and a tiny drawing of a ridiculous vintage car we swore we'd buy together. The ink has faded badly in the folds, especially where we drew the timeline of when it would all happen. It's a bittersweet relic, this fading map, because none of those destinations ever materialized. Life happened, careers diverged, and the simple straight lines of our teenage dreams turned into a complex winding road that we haven't always walked down together. This faded map is the only proof I have of the reckless, beautiful certainty we used to possess. A blueprint for a future that no longer exists in any reality. We designed this perfectly simple life, unaware that the true journey will be finding our way back to each other after taking individual detours. I run my finger over the worn creases, trying desperately to recall the simple coordinates of those old shared dreams. I know the destination is lost, but I'm clinging to the quiet nostalgia of the feeling we had standing there, believing that paper could hold the weight of our whole adult lives. I realize now that the most valuable part of that map wasn't the destinations we marked, but the lines we drew together, the commitment to the shared direction. Even if we got hopelessly lost along the way, I remember the day we drew the X, marking the spot of my first major heartbreak. And you drew a new comforting circle around it, renaming it the pivot point. That's the real map, the record of our mutual support during the unexpected detours. I know I can't live up to the promise of the famous studio or the house by the sea, but I can still live up to the quiet promise of showing up for the pivot points, of always redrawing the line to lead back to you. I'm slowly folding up this faded map, realizing that the real failure wasn't missing the destination, but trying to live by a blueprint that was never meant for this complex reality. We survived the loss of that perfectly simple life, proving that the true bond isn't in the shared dream, but in the shared resilience. I'm putting away the worn paper, knowing that the only coordinates that matter are the ones we are currently standing on here and now. I'm letting go of the old destination, finally accepting that the true purpose of the map was simply to prove that we were meant to travel through the mess of life together. I was walking through the old university campus today, and I saw the wooden bench, the one tucked away behind the main library, slightly chipped and worn, where we spent every significant quiet hour of our early 20s. It's still there, exactly the same, a faithful piece of static furniture in a world that never stops moving. That bench witnessed everything, the nervous excitement before major exams, the tears after our first disaster relationships, and the lazy confident silence of our unbreakable bond. I sat down on the cold wood and the nostalgia was overwhelming, a warm wave of memory washing over the cold reality of the present. I realized that the bench is the single most constant, non-judgmental presence in the history of our friendship. This old wooden bench is the only place in the world that truly understands the complete history of us, an unchanging monument to the quiet chaos of our early lives. I'm holding on to the feeling of the cold hardwood against my skin, trying to anchor myself to the moment where our future felt simple and perfectly attainable. I'm still searching for the faint physical imprint of your presence on the wood grain, hoping to that the bench doesn't hold our memory, it just holds a space for new ones. Our history isn't static, confined to the chip paint and the cold wood. Our history is portable, carried in the way we finish each other's sentences and the quiet knowledge of each other's fears. I stood up and walked away, realizing that the real bond doesn't need this fixed location. I'm no longer defined by the quiet girl who sat there making nervous plans. I'm defined by the woman who can walk away from the nostalgia and carry the strength of that companionship into the uncertain future. I'm finally walking away from this old wooden bench, realizing that the constant I seek isn't an object, but the enduring strength of our shared history. I'm letting go of the memory of the cold hardwood, choosing instead to carry the warmth of our bond into the uncertainty of my own life. I finally understand that the bench doesn't hold our presence, it simply holds the space. And our relationship is meant to be fluid, not confined. I'm embracing the future now, knowing that the truest version of our companionship is not static, but is carried safely and quietly wherever our two paths happen to lead. I had a moment of pure blinding panic yesterday when I needed urgent advice, and my hand instinctively grabbed my phone and started dialing your number, the old one, the one I haven't used in 2 years. I got all the way to the final digit before the muscle memory faltered and the brutal reality flooded back in. I stared at the phone screen, half wishing, half praying that the line would somehow connect, that a voice, any voice, would answer the desperate, fleeting need. The number is disconnected now, a permanent line to an unreachable place, but the impulse remains, a terrifying immediate reflex that reminds me that the most essential lifeline in my life is gone forever. I keep the number saved, a cold hard tribute to the conversations I can no longer have. I keep dialing that unreceived number, caught in the static of a connection that I know can never be bridged, desperately searching for the sound of your patient, quiet voice. The cold silence on the other end is the loudest thing in my world, a stark digital monument to the finality of your absence. I know the line is permanently disconnected, but I'm holding on to the impulse, the foolish, hopeful memory of you picking up on the second ring. I just need to hear you say my name one more time, to know that the essential safety net of your guidance is still somehow hovering over my complicated life. I had to make a tough decision today, one you would have offered perfect succinct guidance on, and I chose to sit alone in the quiet kitchen and talk the problem through with the empty air. I spoke my side, then paused, waiting patiently for the familiar reason, response that I knew would never come. It felt ridiculous and completely necessary, a new ritual born out of a desperate need for the wisdom I inherited, but still don't trust to use alone. I realize that the actual phone call isn't what I miss. I miss the effortless calm and certainty that came with your counsel. I just wanna hear the final quiet assurance that I'm making the right choice, even if the voice is only an echo of my own thought. I'm putting down that unreceived number, finally realizing that the connection I seek is not external but deeply rooted inside my own heart and mind. The silence is no longer cold, it is a stark internal space where your wisdom can finally be heard without the noise of my own desperate need. trusting that the safety net of your guidance is the intuition you carefully nurtured in me. I'm finally saying my own name, trusting the final quiet assurance of the person you raised me to be, knowing that this internal voice is the only true line I need. The old armchair is still sitting in the corner of the living room. The deep worn leather, one that was perfectly molded to the shape of your body. After decades of quiet occupation, I still catch myself looking at it when I walk into the room, half expecting to see you there, book in hand, bathed in the soft late afternoon light. The leather is cold and smooth now, no longer retaining your familiar warmth, but the indentation remains, a silent three-dimensional monument to your absence. It's the starkest, most immediate reminder of the space you occupied, not just in the room, but in the entire architecture of our family life. I can't bring myself to move it or cover it, choosing instead to let the emptiness be the final honest piece of furniture in the house. This empty chair is the quiet center of the room, a perfect unchanging symbol of the space in my life that will never be filled. I trace the worn leather, searching for the faint, fading warmth of your memory, trying to anchor myself to the comfort of your steady presence. I'm afraid of the day I have to move it, terrified that once the chair is gone, the last physical claim I have on your place in the room will finally vanish. I realize the greatest loss is not the absence of sound, but the enduring heavy silence of the shape you left behind. I tried sitting in the chair yesterday, hoping to absorb some residual wisdom or warmth, but the leather felt cold and alien against my skin. It wasn't my space, and the chair stubbornly refused to conform to my shape, proving that some voids are simply meant to be respected and left alone. I realized then that the chair is a powerful symbol of your specific gravity, the quiet weight you held in our lives. I can move the chair, replace the furniture, and rearrange the entire room, but the truth is that the emotional architecture of the family has been permanently shifted by the removal of your central support. The true emptiness is internal, not external, and no piece of furniture can ever truly represent a space you left behind in my heart. I'm slowly moving this empty chair, realizing that the center of the room should no longer be defined by the quiet symbol of your absence. I'm releasing the need to search for the faint, fading warmth, trusting that your memory is carried within my own skin, not in the cold leather. I'm no longer afraid to move it, understanding that the true loss is not the physical object, but the finality of your departure. I'm embracing the silence, realizing the greatest act of love is not trying to fill the void, but learning to live within the new permanent architecture of the life you helped build for me. heavy wool coat out of the closet this morning, the charcoal one with the slight fraying on the cuffs. And I put it on before leaving the house. The wool is scratchy and the sleeves are too long, but the sheer weight of the fabric is immediately comforting. A constant low-grade physical reminder of your strength. For a brief, dizzy moment, I felt your presence again. The residual warmth clinging to the old fibers, the sense of being safely insulated from the world. It's a foolish, tangible connection, relying on an inanimate object to conjure a feeling. But I realize that this coat is the closest I can get to feeling your specific gravity again. I walk through the crowded street feeling like a child wearing oversized clothes, safely hidden within the large, reassuring shadow of your memory. This heavy wool coat is the last warm illusion I own, a tangible, suffocating comfort that conjures the physical feeling of your protection. I bury my face in the old collar, searching desperately for the fading scent of your presence, clinging to the residual warmth that I know is just my own body heat. The weight of the coat is immense, a constant reminder of the strength you carried, and I'm afraid to take it off, terrified that once I shed this familiar layer, the final physical trace of your life will disappear entirely. I'm choosing to wear this borrowed strength until the spring, letting the fabric shield me from the cold truths of the world. I caught my reflection in a shop window today, and I saw a woman who looked slightly stronger than I felt. Her shoulders wide and steady under the large coat. I realized that the coat is just wool and thread. The strength isn't residual in the fabric, but inherited in my own bones. The discomfort of the too long sleeves and the scratchy wool is actually an honest reminder that I have to carry my own weight now. I stop needing to bury my face in the collar, choose instead to pull the wide lapels back, letting the cold air hit my face. I understand now that the coat isn't a replacement for you. It's a quiet, physical symbol of the endurance you pass down, a uniform for the woman who must now stand up and face the world alone. I'm slowly unbuttoning this heavy wool coat, realizing that the illusion of comfort is no longer needed to access your strength. I'm letting go of the residual warmth, trusting that your protection is woven into the resilience I now carry in my own heart. The weight of the coat is immense, but the true strength I need is the courage to stand without your physical shield. I'm choosing to take it off now, accepting that the final, most valuable trace of your life is the endurance you instilled in me. I'm stepping into the spring, ready to face the world, not hidden in your shadow, but standing tall in my own light. I try to make you famous winter suit today, the one you always made on the first cold day of the year. I followed the recipe exactly, the specific brand of broth, the exact timing for the herbs, but the flavor was completely wrong. It was close, a recognizable imitation, but it lacked the specific, unquantifiable warmth that you somehow managed to infuse into every bowl. The recipe card is stained and folded, marked with your specific handwriting, but the most important ingredient, your presence, is missing entirely. It's a cruel exercise, this attempt to perfectly recreate the taste of comfort, because every failed attempt is just another reminder that the unique flavor of your life is something that can never be replicated or inherited, only missed. This last recipe is a cruel, frustrating puzzle I can't solve. A set of instructions that tragically lacks the most essential final ingredient. I keep trying to perfectly recreate the taste of a comfort that is now extinct, failing every time to capture the unquantifiable warmth that only your hands could create. The small kitchen is heavy with the scent of memory, and I'm standing here holding the worn recipe card, refusing to believe that the magic cannot be replicated by simple logic. I just wanna taste that singular flavor again, to feel the specific certainty that everything in the world was perfectly right, just for one final comforting spoonful. I threw the soup away today, accepting the failure of the final batch, and I suddenly felt a wave of relief. I realized that the value of the recipe isn't in the successful recreation of the flavor, but in the simple, repetitive ritual of the attempt. The act of chopping the vegetables and stirring the pot is a small physical connection to the routine you established. A simple way to spend a quiet hour thinking only of you. The final taste doesn't matter. The time spent in the kitchen is the true inheritance. I'm letting go of the need for perfection, accepting that the soup will always taste slightly different, and the difference is the quiet, specific signature of your absence. I'm folding up this last recipe, realizing that the comfort is found not in the solving of the puzzle, but in the gentle, repetitive process of the attempt itself. I'm releasing the need to recreate the taste, choosing instead to find the unquantifiable one. I'm folding up this last recipe, realizing that the comfort is found not in the solving of the puzzle, but in the gentle, repetitive process of the attempt itself. I'm releasing the need to recreate the taste, choosing instead to find the unquantifiable warmth in the simple ritual of chopping and stirring. The small kitchen is now a sacred space for quiet memory, and I'm no longer holding the worn recipe card with frustration, but with gratitude. I accept that the flavor is singular, and the only certainty I need is the knowledge that the magic of your life continues to guide my own quiet, ongoing processes. I was facing a difficult choice this morning, a confusing ethical dilemma that used to require nothing more than a simple 5-minute phone call to you. I sat at my desk, overwhelmed by the complexity, and then, without consciously inviting it, your voice cut through the noise. Not an audible voice, but a specific quiet phrasing in my head that clearly articulated the morally simplest path. It was your tone, your measured logic, the exact kind of gentle firm guidance you always provided. It's a strange, bittersweet form of communication. This quiet advice, this perfect echo of your wisdom that surfaces only when I'm truly stuck. I realize that you may be gone, but the intricate moral framework you built for me is still perfectly intact, acting as an internal guidance system when the external one fails. I'm desperately listening for that quiet advice, hoping the internal wisdom you instilled will cut through the noise of my fear and confusion. I cherish this gentle internal echo, this perfect familiar tone of your moral compass that helps me navigate the ethical storms of my own life. I'm closing my eyes, trying to focus on the perfect memory of your presence, knowing that this communication is a painful, one-sided conversation with the legacy you left behind. I just need to hear the final, soothing clarity that only your wisdom can provide before I commit to the terrifying uncertainty of my own choice. I followed the advice this morning, acting on the clear, firm direction that surfaced from my own quiet intuition. The outcome was messy, not immediately satisfying, but I felt a sense of profound peace, knowing that the decision was aligned with the values you spent a lifetime teaching me. I realized that the voice I'm hearing is not a ghost, but the integrated sum of your patience and judgment now fully residing within me. I no longer need to desperately search for your guidance. I need to simply trust the wisdom you meticulously built into my core. I'm learning to accept that the most valuable part of your life wasn't your presence, but the strength of the moral foundation you left me to build upon alone. I'm no longer desperately listening for that quiet advice. I'm trusting the internal wisdom you instilled, realizing it is fully and firmly my own. I'm relying on this gentle internal echo, accepting that the perfect tone of your moral compass is now the permanent, steady truth of my own voice. I open my eyes, choosing to trust the guidance that comes from within, knowing that this communication is a sacred, ongoing conversation with the legacy I proudly carry forward. I no longer need the final soothing clarity. The greatest peace is trusting the strength of the moral choice I'm capable of making entirely on my own. The dust motes stands exactly where the afternoon sun hits the old hardwood floor, just like they did when you were still here, making noise in the kitchen. I haven't rearranged the books on the shelf. I keep thinking your hand will reach out for the missing volume you always promised to finish reading. The silence in this apartment is too clean now, too perfectly settled. I miss the chaos of your shoes by the door and the clutter of your unfinished sketches scattered on the coffee table. I tried swapping the living room sofa with the armchair last week, an entirely futile attempt to somehow trick my own mind into believing this space never truly belonged to you. But the deep indentation on the cushion where you always sat remains. This apartment is my museum now, a soft-lit, lonely archive where every single object is a relic of your warmth. I walk through these familiar rooms, chasing the ghost of your reflection in the window pane, 'cause you're breathing better than I can manage to forget it. I'm perpetually stuck inside this perfect cozy diorama of us moving like a shadow against the minimalist production of a broken life. I'm singing this memory to the gentle beat of the grandfather clock, hoping that the rhythm will somehow drown out the sound of my own quiet aching heart. I finally packed up the 2 extra coffee mugs, the cheap ceramic ones we bought on that random rainy road trip up north. I wrapped them up carefully in tissue paper, folding the edges exactly how you taught me to when we first moved in. It felt like I was archiving a foreign history, a chapter that belongs to someone else's life, not mine. Sometimes late at night I still hear the low, indistinct murmur of your voice from the hallway, only to realize it's just the heating unit clicking back to life. I hold my breath just for a second, pretending that you're finally home, that you're just about to open the bedroom door and apologize for being late. I'm slowly learning to live with this museum, walking through the lonely archive without touching the relics of your warmth. I know I have to stop chasing the ghost in the reflection of the morning sun's harsh light. I'm finally realizing how to live in a space where the rhythm of our broken life keeps repeating on a gentle beat. I'm trying to fast forward past this perfect cozy diorama of us moving towards a blurred light outside the frame. The empty air still holds your memory, but maybe soon my quiet aching heart will finally forget the song entirely.